Well, when it comes to our financial woes in this country, there's a common perception that only a few things are to blame.
The reason why we have the national debt at the level we have is because of spending, and also the dramatic expansion of entitlement programs without paying for them.
This is a budget-busting health care bill that I think is going to bankrupt our country.
Bottom line, we can't protect these entitlements and also have the national defense we need to protect us in a dangerous world.
Well, very rarely do we hear people saying defense spending needs to be cut. And in fact, most people are constantly saying we need more and more. Well, here's something to think about. The U.S. Inspector General for Iraq Reconstruction now says taxpayers have been funding a $200 million program to train Iraqi police that is neither wanted nor needed by those it's aimed at helping. It's called the Police Development Program, and it's actually the largest State Department program in the world. So it definitely begs the question, what did we get for our money? To help answer that question, I'm joined now by John Glazer with antiwar.com. Let me ask you this, John. I mean, what's the deal here? How does this happen? How does so much money get wasted without being questioned, at least, without accountability?
Well, the waste is practically built into the system of how things work. I mean, this is just one report about one program. If we go back a few months, I think it was in October 2011, the Commission on Wartime Spending in Iraq and Afghanistan found that 60 billion, with a B, of U.S. war funds were lost due to waste, fraud, and abuse, and criminal activity and corruption and so forth. Later on, the Commission said we won't release our final details because there's sensitive information. Sensitive apparently meaning uncovering government waste, profligacy, criminality, and so forth. So
it just seems strange to me. If I want to go and join a gym, not only do I have to fill out a bunch of forms, I have to commit for a year. I have to, sign something that says if I get hurt, it's nobody's fault but mine. This is the largest State Department program, and yet there's nothing even in writing from the Iraqi people saying they wanted it or were willing to take part.
Yeah, the Iraqis have been very hands-off. They've wanted Washington's hands off of their government and their security forces for a long time. But we need to think about as well, not only is this being wasted on a population that doesn't want us intervening, but it's also going to, what has happened already is that we've propped up this security apparatus in Iraq, which has no respect for human rights at all. It's basically an armed force for the Prime Minister Maliki, who's crowded out Sunnis and Shias and Kurds, and is creeping towards dictatorship. So, I mean, this kind of waste is inherent in the fact that we're even giving any money to Iraq at all.
And I know, and not only are we giving it and have we given it, there continues to be a cry for more and more. And I know that recently Assistant Secretary of State Carol Perez, told the auditors, the people looking into this, that, this commitment actually was assured, and it was assured by the Principal Deputy Interior Minister Adnan al-Assadi, saying that Iraq is committed to this program. But apparently that same man told those same auditors, and this is a direct quote, that the program is useless. Again, she asked for more funding. So, I mean, this is something simple. Why can't we get our facts straight here?
Yeah, it's a good question. This is the way government operates. I mean, even there's a woman that now works for the Center for Strategic International Studies that used to be at the embassy in Iraq, said from the beginning that this was a bottomless pit for the U.S. This is how things work, and you're right. People keep arguing for more and more spending. I mean, the amount that we've wasted on war and defense in the past 10 years is just exorbitant. I mean, maybe $4 trillion.
But John, I mean, you know as well as I do, there's so many people, especially in the last 2 years in Washington, those who call themselves, members of the Tea Party, who say that government spending, especially on unnecessary programs, should be cut, should be questioned. Why can't it be questioned when it falls under the umbrella of defense as well? Clearly, most people involved here would say that this was a wasteful program.
Yeah, I think there's two things. First of all, the nationalism that exists in the American ideology props up so much fervor for government spending on defense and war and sort of flag waving and stuff. The other thing is that there are entrenched interests involved in the defense sector that really prevent much of the dialogue that you might hear about health care or transfer payments or taxes. We spend currently about as much as the rest of the world combined on our military, 6 times more than China, the next up. So much of what we do is wasteful, but it puts money in the pockets of really rich military-industrial complex organizations and corporations. So.
Some of those defense contractors do seem to, as you say, stifle the discussion. You brought up the embassy in Iraq, and so not only this specific program that we're talking about, the largest State Department program, the U.S. embassy in Iraq is also the largest, and I think we have a picture of it. Oh, no, that's not it. Anyhow, this embassy, here it is. It's absolutely huge. It's going to make it so that thousands and thousands of not military troops, but contractors have to stay, and some troops as well. What is the purpose of this if we had no intention of staying in the country?
Well, we did have an intention of staying in the country, and in fact, the Obama administration had been pressing the Maliki government for months and months and months to try and maintain some contingent force there that could have been anywhere from 10,000 to 30,000. And when the Iraqis said no, Washington wasn't happy about it. So they're going to try and keep this embassy, which is the size of the Vatican, as big as possible. There's State Department forces there that number up to 16,000. There's regular U.S. troops, and there's contractors. They're going to try and keep it as big as possible and as influential as possible, because otherwise Iraq gets outside of our sphere of influence, and that is the last thing that Washington wants.
Especially after being there for the last 10 years and putting in a whole lot of money and a whole lot of lives. I want to broaden this a little bit and sort of talk about the Iraqi Reconstruction effort overall. I know that at least 719 people have actually died as part of just the reconstruction effort. We have a breakdown of some of those numbers: 318 Americans, 271 Iraqi civilians, 111 third country nationals, and then 19 others. That seems like a lot of people dying in a country that's no longer at war. What do you think those numbers account for? What do they mean?
Well, the insurgency is really ongoing in Iraq, and that's the quiet little secret in Washington. We've spent almost a decade there, trillions of dollars, thousands of our men and women in uniform died, hundreds of thousands, probably 500,000 or 600,000 Iraqis dead, and yet bombings on a mass scale, coordinated bombings in numerous cities on the same day, that's a regular occurrence. So the inability to have true security in that country is a direct result of our interventions, and the process there now with the contractors and the reconstruction efforts and all of this, they're no better at doing it than the U.S. military was. So
it just seems for a country that's so focused on trying to get its fiscal house in order and wants to point fingers at what needs to be cut, that at least the more money you spent on defense doesn't mean the more secure you are. I think it's important for people to realize that sometimes there are smart places to cut, too, that aren't going to put anyone's harm or safety in jeopardy. And a lot of times you just don't hear that. Appreciate you being on the show. John Glazer, assistant editor of antiwar.com.